Okay, I like that movement for our first set. Let's go ahead and add another set. So we'll come down here to add a set, and it'll add our new set. Now you see that it copies the same position as the first set, or as the second set. So we can continue on writing from here. So you notice that it keeps the same number of counts as it does from the first set, or the set before. So let's go back to here and see if we can change our counts. So we double click on this. Then we come over to counts, and let's change it to 8 counts. Great. All right, now we don't want to be moving these performers by hand all day, so we are going to use some forms. So let's create a nice arc form for our performers. Let's zoom out a little bit. All right, create an arc. So you come up here to the toolbar and you click on the arc form tool. Now the toolbar will open up on the left hand side, and you'll notice that you don't have to click any more buttons. As soon as you press that, you're able to create an arc on the field. So let's do that now. You just click and drag, and there's our beautiful arc. So you notice that it has these yellow marbles that we can grab. So if you can grab the middle one, and you see it changes shape, we can grab the side ones, or we can grab the middle one, blue marble, just like we did on the other side. Now you see that it has this little red marble. You can't actually grab that marble, but it represents the center of the entire circle if this arc was a complete circle. Now that we have created our form, we want to go back to our performers. But you'll notice that I can't grab the performers right now. That's because as soon as we go into performer mode, or rather as soon as we create a form, we go into form mode. And you can see that up here. We're in form mode right now, while before we were in performer mode. We also have one more mode, which is path mode. And this allows you to edit individual performers' paths. We'll be going into that a little bit more detail later on. So let's go back into performer selection mode, and then you can see our selection comes back in. So we can grab our performers. Now, how do we get our performers? Oh, that was wrong. Look at that, I'm on the wrong set. So what I want to do, I want to keep that previous set. So let's just undo what I just did, that little movement. So we come up here, press undo. Very easy. All right, so let's move our marker to our latest sets. Oh, and you see that the form that we just created was actually on set 2. So let's recreate that form. Come back up here to arc tool, create our form again. There we go. Now here is a little trick. You don't want to have to come all the way up here to click all the time. So you want to press Control Tab to switch between form mode and performer mode. Now this is one of those times where Windows and Mac users are actually the same, because Command Tab on a Mac actually switches between the different operations that we have open. So here we are in performer mode. All right, and on the proper set. So let's grab our performers and just drag them onto the form. Now you'll notice that I get this blue line that goes across. Now each one of these blue dots, or each one of the dots that is highlighted blue, is where the performers that we have are going to be placed. So you'll see as I go around the form that area shifts. So it picks the middlemost point from where the performers are and selects those number of performers. So let's add them here. Now we want these performers to go over the forms evenly. So there's an easy way to do that. You could come up here to number of dots and change that manually. You change the interval or the number of sides. If we want to make it a triangle, say, come all the way down to 3. Oh, all the way down to 2, I meant. But we'll keep it at a nice 45 to keep it nice and rounded. Alright, so to easily remove these extra dots, all you want to do is press Expand to Fit, and it automatically removes any empty dots that are on the form. And you can see that their paths are being automatically created. So if we go back to set 2, now we can see that we have 2 sets of paths. We have the lightly colored paths and the dark colored paths. Now the light colored paths are the ones that are coming from the set before, so in this case from set 1 to set 2, and the dark colored paths are the paths that are going to the next set, which is from set 2 to set 3 in this case. So you can see that we can drag across the timeline and we can see them move into their new positions. Okay, so that's the first form, the arc form. So let's talk about some of the other forms a little bit. We'll just give you a quick introduction and we'll go into detail with them a little bit later on. So the first form, the most basic, is just the line form tool. And same thing as the other ones, you can just click and drag. Very simple. You notice that it automatically sets the interval paces to 3. But that's very easily changeable over here on the left hand side. Now you see this has these little toggles here. These are locks. So I want to make sure the intervals stay locked at 3. So if I grab the end point of this and I make it smaller, my interval is going to stay the same, but the number of dots that I have is not going to change. But if I want to change the other way, if I want to lock the number of dots, so let's say I want 14 dots, then our interval is going to change with that. And you notice, of course, that the length is changing. If I lock the length, the number of dots and the intervals are both locked as well. Cannot be changed. All right. While we're in here, you notice that each of the forms will have some similar buttons. So I can create a new form from this without having to press the toolbar button. And I can also delete the currently selected form. Normal forms are in white and selected forms are all in black. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this form. Alright, I'm going to skip over the multi-curve form for the second, but we're going to come back to it in a little bit. It's a little bit more complicated. Alright, let's go all the way over to the circle form. This was pretty straightforward. Create a circle. Well, the first point that you drag is the middle point, and you can move it around. Same thing as with the other ones. You also have the number of sides, just like I was showing with the arc form. So if we put this down to 3, this will actually make a triangle. So you can create squares and other interesting shapes if you want to use that feature. Keep it up around 45 if you want to keep it a nice circle. Okay, so let's go on to the block form. Same thing. After you click it, just drag it, and it is a 3x3 horizontal and vertical. This has a little bit more options than the other ones. You can change the alignment. So it starts off with vertical alignment, and you can see that with the small purple lines in between. So the first, if we click off here, you can see that the little purple marker, the purple dot, is the beginning of the form. And you can see that on all of the forms. We have the little purple dot. So that is where the first performers are going to be going, and it's going to be going in this direction, up and over. So let me reselect this form. So we're in horizontal, so let's go back to vertical. Oh, we're in vertical. All right. So if I want to window it, you notice that they're in a solid block, or they're lined up. So we can window it so that every other line is in the window of the line that came before it. We can also change where the starting position is. So if I want the block to start at the top right, I can change it to top and right. And you can see that our purple marker goes to the top and the right. We can also make some interesting shapes with the block form. I am currently in segment 3, and you can see that the current segment is bolded a little bit more than the rest of them. So that is segment 3. What I want to do is press split segment. So that'll create another point in here, and I can change that. I can also change these other yellow points, so we don't have to stay a nice block. We can make any sort of shape that we want with that. Okay, the last form that we have is the multi-curve tool. Now this one requires a little bit of extra effort when you're creating it. So what do you want to do? Click on the MultiForm tool. Now this is the only one that you can't drag and create it. You have to click. So I click on my first point, my starting point. And now our form is created, but not a very interesting form at this point. So I can create a second point, and I'll create that curve for me. Now I can continue to create points to move around, whatever kind of shape that I want. Now, before this is completed, I want to come over here to the curve tool and press finish setting points. So there we go. I finished setting those points, and you'll see that it fills out. Now that I have it, I want to tweak it a little bit. So I can move any of these interior points, or I can move the control points to get the exact kind of curve that I want. I can also delete points or add points if I want to. So I'm on segment 1, which again is bolded the same way that the block form is bolded. So let's split this segment, and you see that it creates another point. But there's also another way to do that. I can hold down the Alt button, and it'll create another point in wherever I'm clicking. And you can see that the performers also get selected the same way. So let's just go back. I just hit Control Tab to move back over to performer selection mode. And let's grab my performers. Oh, I don't want to do that yet. I like the form that they're in right now. So let's add another set. All right, so add another set, and you'll see that those forms don't continue on. So we want to keep them separate on each set. So let's actually copy one of these forms. So I like the shape of this. Almost looks like a number 5. Got to make sure I am in form mode. Then I can come up here to edit copy. So this will copy the form. Move over to set number 4, and let's paste the form. I can use Control V, Command V. And you see that it pastes that form. All right, let's go back to performer mode, and I can move these performers over to that form. And you see that it works the same way. You'll notice that the blue line that connects the beginning and the ending. So my beginning performer is going to be starting down here, and the ending performer is going to be up at the top there. So let's go ahead and select that. Oh, and you can see this creates a big crisscross mess. So if this happens to you, how are you going to fix that? Okay, so let's talk about selection ordering and why that is important. Now there's an entire tutorial video about this process, so I'm going to go over it quickly here. So let's add a new form to my new set. Now you notice that for the line form, the first place that you click is where the beginning of the form is, which is the purple dot. So you'll see that the performers as they're selected are selected from a dark red to a lightish pink color. So let's go back into performer mode. Now this depicts the order. So the dark red is the beginning of the selection, and the purple is the beginning of the form. So when I try to map it to this, the beginning of the selection is going to map to the beginning of the form, and you'll see what happens. You get a big crisscross here. So what you want to do to undo that, well, first of all, you can choose reverse all or reverse last selection. Both will work in this instance. Reverse last selection will obviously only reverse the last members that were selected. So let's undo that and show that in a little more detail. So first of all, back to performer mode, select only half of our performers. So we can drag them down to here, and you can see that they'll only take up about half the form. So they mapped pretty nicely that way. So I'm going to grab the rest of my performers, switch back to performer mode, and let's map those to the form also. So you see I come down here. Now they map nicely. We have a hole in the middle, but if I go over here to reverse last selection, then those ones are going to uncross, but those ones are going to stay as they were. So let's reverse last selection. Now, how do I get rid of that hole? I mentioned it earlier. You can just use expand to fit. It'll get rid of that. So let's select all of these performers, select this form, and reverse everyone on the form. So you can see that it crisscrosses there, and we can reverse it back.